The year was 1647. It was a spring day in Hartford, Connecticut. This was not a day for celebration, it was a day of fear and death. On May 26th, a woman named Alse Young was executed. She was hanged. This was a grim first for the American colonies. Alse Young became the first person on record to be executed for witchcraft in the colonies. Her death marked the beginning of a dark chapter. It showed how deep fear could run in these new settlements. Alse Young likely lived in Windsor, Connecticut. Windsor was a small town then. Not much is known for sure about her daily life. Records from that time are often incomplete. We know she was a real person. Her death is noted in official documents. Governor John Winthrop of Massachusetts wrote about it. He noted a woman was hanged in Hartford for witchcraft. Another diary, by John Whiting, the minister of the First Church of Hartford, also mentions her execution. These small notes are all that remain of her final days. Life in early colonial America was very hard. People faced many dangers. There were harsh winters and new diseases. There were conflicts with Native American tribes. Many things were unexplained. When bad things happened, people looked for someone to blame. Sometimes they blamed witchcraft. This was a common belief brought over from Europe. The idea of witches causing harm was very real to them. It was a way to make sense of a frightening world. The specific reasons for Alse Young's accusation are lost to history. There was an influenza epidemic in Connecticut that year. Many people got sick and died. Perhaps Alse was a healer. Maybe her remedies did not work, or people grew suspicious of her knowledge. Sometimes just being different was enough to make people afraid. She might have had a dispute with a neighbor, or perhaps she was simply unlucky. The lack of detailed records means we can only guess at the exact charges against her. Alse Young was not born in America. She was born in England. This was like many other early colonists. The exact date of her birth is unknown. Her early life in England is also a mystery. We do not know her maiden name for certain. Some think it might have been Elson or Ison. She grew up in a time of religious and political turmoil in England. This turmoil pushed many people to seek a new life elsewhere. They hoped for better opportunities or religious freedom. At some point, Alse made the long journey to America. This journey across the Atlantic Ocean was dangerous. Ships were small and crowded. Storms were common. Disease could spread quickly on board. Many people did not survive the trip. When she arrived, America was a new and wild land. It was very different from England. The colonists had to build everything from scratch. They faced an unfamiliar environment. It took great courage to make such a move. In America, Alse married a man named John Young. John Young was a carpenter. They lived in Windsor, Connecticut. This was one of the early settlements in the Connecticut colony. As a carpenter, John would have been an important member of the community. He helped build homes and other structures. Alse would have been a typical colonial wife. Her days were likely filled with hard work. She would manage the household, tend a garden, and perhaps help her husband. Alse and John Young had at least one child. Her name was Alse Young. Alice would later marry Simon Beeman. Family was very important in colonial society. Families worked together to survive. Children were expected to help their parents. Alice grew up in this environment. She would have known her mother well. The events that happened to Alse would cast a long shadow. This shadow would even touch Alice's own life many years later. It shows how accusations could impact entire families. The exact reasons Alse Young was accused of witchcraft are not clearly recorded. This is frustrating for historians. In the 1640s, there was a deadly influenza epidemic. It swept through New England, including Connecticut. Many people died. When such terrible events happened, people often sought explanations beyond natural causes. They might look for a scapegoat. Perhaps Alse was somehow connected to the sick. Maybe she tried to help them, or perhaps she was simply blamed for the suffering. Once accused, Alse's situation would have become very serious, very quickly. Unlike later trials, the early witchcraft proceedings could be swift. There was no established complex legal process for these cases yet. The accusation itself carried great weight in a community gripped by fear. Local magistrates would have heard the charges. There is no record of Alse having a lawyer or a robust defense. The fear of witchcraft was so strong that an accusation could easily lead to a conviction based on flimsy evidence or mere suspicion. Alse Young was taken from Windsor to Hartford for her execution. Hartford was the center of the Connecticut colony. She was hanged on May 26, 1647. The execution likely took place at Meeting House Square. This is now the site of the old State House in Hartford. Her death was a public event. It was meant to be a warning to others. It showed the power of the authorities. It also showed how deeply the belief in witchcraft was embedded in the society of that time. Her execution was a stark and brutal end. Tragically, the fear of witchcraft did not end with Alse. Her daughter, Alse Young Beeman, faced her own ordeal. About 30 years after Alse's execution in 1677, Alice was accused of witchcraft in Springfield, Massachusetts. This shows how such accusations could run in families. However, Alice's fate was different. She was accused, but she was not executed. The outcome for Alice might suggest a slight shift in how accusations were handled over time. Or perhaps just different circumstances in her specific case. Alse Young's case is very important. It happened decades before the famous Salem Witch Trials. The Salem trials took place in Massachusetts in 1692 and 1693. Those trials were much larger. Many more people were accused and executed in Salem. Salem became a well-known symbol of mass hysteria. But Alse Young's execution was the first. It set a precedent. It showed that colonial authorities were willing to execute people for witchcraft. Her story is a crucial starting point. There are differences between Alse's case and Salem. Alse's was a single execution. It did not spark a widespread panic in the same way Salem did. The Salem trials involved spectral evidence where accusers claimed to see the spirits of the accused, tormenting them. We do not know what kind of evidence was used against Alse. The records are too thin. However, both Alse's case and Salem show a society under stress. They reveal a world where the supernatural was a real and present danger in people's minds. The significance significance of Alse Young's story is profound. She represents the very beginning of a dark period in American colonial history. Her execution is a reminder of the dangers of fear and superstition. It shows how easily a community could turn against one of its own. Understanding her story helps us understand the mindset of early colonists. They were building a new world, but they also brought old fears with them. These fears could have deadly consequences for people like Alse. Alse Young is often overlooked in history books. The Salem trials tend to get more attention, but her story is a vital piece of the puzzle. It tells us that the witchcraft hysteria in America did not begin in Salem. It had earlier, more isolated roots. Remembering Alse Young honors her memory. It also helps us understand the long and complex history of justice and belief in America. Her execution is a somber landmark. It reminds us to question fear and protect the vulnerable.